Hello and welcome. The Raw Materials Research and Development Council is our focus this week on the program, a federal government agency established back in 1987 to promote the development and utilization of raw materials here in Nigeria. Now, since it commenced operation back in 1988, it has been at the forefront providing special research grants for industries to achieve breakthrough in terms of innovations and inventions and encouraging the publicity of research findings relevant to local sourcing of raw materials. However, it has had to grapple with its own challenges over the years, especially in terms of making millions of Nigerians aware of its existence and operations, and even getting a government as well as stakeholders to see reason why it is important to harness available raw materials so that they are not depleted, and of course, the issue of funding. Professor Peter Onwualu is the Director General of the RMRDC, and as our guest this week, he will be giving us his own views on raw materials as it affects the agency and what has been going on under his leadership so far. 25 years of local raw materials development in Nigeria. Is there any cause for the country to celebrate? Well, let's find out from the DG himself. I'm Ayatunde Balogun. It's question time. Professor Peter Onwualu, you're welcome to question time.
Thank you.
All right, now we're looking at the Raw Materials Research and Development Council. 25 years since it was established. I mean, it commenced operations some 25 years ago. Now, looking at it all these years, local raw materials for the past 25 years, that means it's development in Nigeria. Any cause for us to celebrate as a country?
Yes, definitely there is cause for us to celebrate. 25 years in the life of an institution may look small, but at least it's also a lot of time for an institution to at least show what that institution can do. We have over the years tackled this problem of local sourcing of industrial raw materials. We know that when we started in 1987, there was no institution in this country that was looking at the issue of local sourcing of industrial raw materials. So when the council was established by the federal government, the founding fathers sat down. Remember that the council was actually established as a result of requests by manufacturers, basically the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, backed by other organized private sector groups. And so by the time the council started, these stakeholders were called together. And the issue was, why is it that most of the major key players in the manufacturing sector are importing basically almost 100% of the raw materials that they were using for manufacturing? Whereas at the same time, we have natural resources. The only basic problem is that these natural resources occur in their natural form. And so they are not yet candidates for manufacturing. And so the issue was, how do we set up an institution that can add and see how these problems can be addressed? That is, how do we harness these natural resources, add value to them, and make sure that those secondary raw materials that now you generate after value addition are now available economically, commercially, in such a way that these large-scale manufacturers can get these things locally. Of course, being a government institution, you realize that the issue would be, what the council can do will be to create an enabling environment for the private sector, because definitely it is private sector that will get involved in harnessing the raw materials, adding value, and then supplying to those large-scale manufacturers. So when council called the stakeholders, everybody sat down and came up with suggestions. And that led to what we called our action programs, which was started by the first DG we had. And they really worked hard. One of the basic issues they tackled at that time was the issue of information. At that time, there were pieces of information here and there from geological surveys, from Ministry of Agri, and so on. But of course, all the minerals and all the agricultural products, not all of them are actually industrial. That is not all minerals. It's not all agricultural products that are industrial that can transform to industrial raw materials. The agric one, for example, some of them are just purely for food. So there was need to identify those ones that are cash crops, those ones that are industrial crops, and begin to quantify them and see where they are. So that we'll basically be advising government on what to do to make sure that they are not depleted beyond what they should be. The same thing applies to minerals. So for the past 25 years, Council concentrated on generating information on Nigeria's industrial raw materials. And today we have what is called the National Raw Material Information System, which is housed in the National Raw Material Resource Center, which is basically here in Abuja here, physically. But that resource center has been transformed into an ICT-driven center. In other words, you come there, you will see these natural resources, some of them in their physical form, but 90% of the information is now online. In other words, they are now basically in a big database. And that database you can actually query and get any useful information you require. Not just that we have gypsum here or that we have talc there, but the kind of information that investors require. And this has been really very useful to investors. We play host to a large number of Nigerians who are trying to set up resource-based industries, but their technical partners abroad who want to know, if you say you have coal in Nigeria, where is it? What is the reserve estimate? What type of coal? What are the chemical components? These are the information that those who design equipment, those who want to invest, these are the kind of useful information that they require, which before the establishment of the council, information in that form was not available. Today, you have all those information about barytes, about talc, about gypsum, about all kinds of minerals that we have, beyond what you will normally get, from the statutory bodies. And then we have gone beyond just showing that these industrial crops or these industrial minerals are there. We've gone beyond that because those stakeholders that were called at the inception of the council also identified the fact that most of the suppliers, local suppliers of these raw materials, are not able to add value to them. For example, you have a limestone somewhere, and somebody who wants to make cement requires limestone, but the limestone he gets from suppliers may not be 100% limestone. It may have impurities. And this, for all minerals, this usually occurs. That's why probably, if you remember what happened for those who are looking for gold, and then we had all these health issues. It is because gold does not occur in its pure form. Gold occurs with lead and other things. So people try to mine gold, but they need to clean it. And they do this using next to nothing in terms of technology. And so you have all these health issues. But there is need to now have technologies for adding value, for processing these things, cleaning them, and upgrading their quality. Not using hands. You go to a salt lake, for example. You see people, we've had this project in Nasarawa State. You see people scooping salt solution from salt lake, trying to dry it over a fireplace to get salt. Of course, they've been doing this over and over years, but now there are modern technologies for processing these things. And so, Council now again concentrated on developing local technologies for adding value to these natural resources. And that gave birth to the National Raw Materials Research Scheme. And under that scheme, every year we give a number of research grants to individuals, whether you are in private or public sector. Once you are ready to do research in the area of value addition to a raw material, you qualify to get a grant. Of course, we have our ways of evaluating the technical content of the proposal, how that addresses a national issue, and how that helps in solving the raw material question, and how it is also supporting the government in power at the time. So, we give these grants, And then when the results come out, we don't stop there. We try to transfer the results of this research to SMEs. SMEs that can now go into production so that they can supply the large-scale industries who require those raw materials. And you ask me, have we really succeeded in this? And I want to tell you that in the past 25 years, this council has funded over 200 research projects. Some of them looking at policy issues, some of them looking at analyzing the problem. Why is it that industries are folding? Why is it that they can't source their raw materials from within Nigeria? And then coming up with policies. And some of these policies have been injected into the national economy. For example, some of the tariff adjustments you see every year, whether we are banning the importation of this or we are increasing the tariff or reducing, they are actually as a result of some of our research findings. But beyond that, this which you may not touch, you also see physical plants in different parts of the country, where we have taken the results of the research to actual industries. I can tell you that today, some years back, we completed, for example, a fruit juice plant and sold it to a private sector organization. And they are now running. We have shown how you can process fruits locally and package them. You will see a factory, for example, where you process talc in Niger State, which we did in collaboration with a number of private sector organizations. We have worked on phosphates up north in Sokoto. We've worked on sesame seeds, processing sesame, either for getting the high quality seed or processing it to get oil. We've worked on vegetable oils from groundnuts. We've worked on oil palm, and so on and so forth. It's a long list, and I invite people to visit the council or visit our website to see some of these research results. One interesting thing is that we do most of the research on contract basis. For example, we identify researchers in different parts of different institutions and give them grants, and then harness the results of their research and use these either to train SMEs or to support SMEs who now establish industries. It could be an SME that is already functioning but not using technology. So we harness the technology and inject in that SME. And we have a number of examples of products you find all over the country that people have been able to enhance their production based on the scientific input we have made.
All right, let's even move away from that which you've talked about extensively. Looking at the other side of the divide, what has been the response of Nigerians? That man on the street, that common or ordinary Nigerian, if I may put it that way, to this barrage of modern technology that you've been talking about in the development and utilization of our raw materials.
Yes, I must commend Nigerians. I must say that a lot of Nigerians are keen in. Because each time in a year, for example, we conduct about, on the average, we conduct about 20 to 30 training workshops, conferences, seminars. In fact, for seminars, that runs even up to 50, because we have office in every state. And each of those state offices conduct seminars to enlighten people. And the result of all these enlightenment campaigns is that my office is besieged by Nigerians, people who are interested in establishing one small-scale industry or the other, especially even the small ones you are talking about, cooperative societies, women groups. I've had a lot of women that come here and say, look, we heard you can tell us how to process tomato, how to process onions, how to process these basic things, pepper. And we have worked with these Nigerians. And today, I can give you at least 5 small-scale people who started with us, looking at spices. How do you package Nigerian spices? And today, they are not only selling their spices locally, they are even exporting. Crayfish, onions, pepper, these small, if you are looking at those basic ones that people can do at, that small-scale level. Even fish. So Nigerians are responding. But, of course, you know that Nigeria is a large country. And so for you to really see a lot of the impact, you will want to see more and more Nigerians investing their money in these areas. What I have noticed is that a lot of people are interested, but there are a lot of obstacles. If you've ever tried to set up an industry, even if it is in a factory that is as small as this room, you are going to face a lot of challenges, which probably may not have anything to do with raw material sourcing. You have to look for machines, you have to have electricity, you have to have water, you have to have even communication. These are all things that add up. And then you also have to battle with the large number of regulatory agencies we have. You have to satisfy NAFDAC, SON, and then the local governments. Once you set up something, the local governments will come with their levies, environmental. These are complaints that small-scale manufacturers are giving us that are also challenging them. But having said that, I know that a lot of Nigerians are trying to break through all these challenges. And those who have persevered and stuck to their gun to see how they can make it, they are smiling to the banks. That is not to say that it's a bed of roses. We've also had experiences of people who came to us and we tried to assist them, and then somewhere down the road, the challenges overwhelmed them. But one thing I've noticed is that a lot of Nigerians are incapacitated with respect to investable income. In other words, a lot of people come, we do workshops, conferences, training, or even this TV appearance I'm appearing. After this, you will see a lot of people coming after you air this. But we tell them what to do. We are ready to give them all the information and all the training they require. But the basic thing which they require to be able to acquire the technology they require, which is cash, they don't have. So that I see as a major constraint, a major challenge to the millions of Nigerians that would have wanted to look inwards to develop industries that can be processing these things.
So how can we really tackle this sort of challenge? I mean,
well, from my own perspective, we're already doing something. We as a nation, not as Raw Material Council this time. Government, the federal government, and indeed some state governments have actually tried to tackle this problem, and that is by providing some kind of financial packages where people can actually go to. That is why today you have Bank of Industry, which is funded by the federal government. We have Bank of Agriculture. We have NEFON, that is National Economic Reconstruction Fund. We also have some other development partners. And then beyond these development finance institutions, and in fact, even the CBN, the central bank, has also rolled out a number of financial incentives. The recent program which they are promoting now, which is there in the public domain, and once in a while, the central bank also does intervention funds. And sometimes people say, but they don't see these things. But I'm aware, I have seen industries that have been revived through the CBN intervention funds. So government has taken this challenge to provide all these avenues. Now, beyond that, people can also approach the commercial banks, even though our stakeholders complain that taking facilities from commercial banks can be fatal, they can be killing because of the high interest rates and some of the ways, some of them, all the sharp practices they do. But by and large, I believe that the best way to solve the problem would be to continue the issue of having development banks. And if there is a way government can increase the kind of resources that are available to these banks so that they can reach more people. At the same time also, some state governments have also taken up the challenge by setting up poverty alleviation institutions. You hear some state governments have voted like 500 million for SMEs to give them loans, 500,000, 1 million here and there, even 200,000. This council has helped people to set up industries with just 200,000. So it depends on the scale. One way to overcome the problem, to answer your question, is to continue this process of using development banks to channel funds to entrepreneurs. Beyond that, we also need to do some retooling of our financial sector so that we can have what the kind of banks that are called venture capital companies. There are a few of them in Lagos and maybe also a few in some other cities in Abuja. But currently, most of them channel their efforts towards those businesses that have a faster rate of return. For obvious reasons. They want situations where they invest money and within a short time the money comes back, so they roll it over and so on. But in manufacturing, you require long-term capital. You require interest shouldn't be more than single digit. Once it goes beyond single digit, the manufacturer is probably most likely going to have problems.
Then perhaps does that explain why we don't seem to have so many of our multinationals in existence?
That's the major problem, because you get into a bank, get a facility, you find that the interest you are paying on the facility is probably more than the capital, the capital that you actually took from the bank. And if you are into manufacturing, you will find that that kind of financial package is not really suitable for a manufacturing process, because you also have other challenges. Remember that our infrastructure base is still not where it should be. If you are setting up an industry now, you must think about power. And that is, again, what will also increase your cost of inputs. You have to provide your own electricity. You have to provide water. You have to provide even security nowadays. If you have somebody that is light-skinned, maybe your technical partner around, you have to spend money to provide extra security for him. These are all the kinds of things that our industrialists are battling with. Whereas, if this industry is being set up in a developed economy, all these encumbrances won't be there. You won't be worrying about security. You won't be worrying about providing generator, diesel. You won't be worrying about even the human mind, the honesty of your staff. We've had situations, some of our partners, we've seen situations where